The dark side of moving, and homeowners are learning about it the hard way.
People complain their personal belongings are delivered broken, and sometimes they say a mover demands more money before taking those belongings off the moving van. Contact 5 investigator Shannon Cake has been tracking these complaints for years. She's joining us now with a shift in the way the industry is policed. Shannon.
Kelly, that's right. For almost 16 years now, I've followed this industry that has largely been unregulated during that time, but we are now learning the feds are finally taking notice.
20 years old, so he's retired, but he's my lawnmower now.
Kodo was Tracy Hines' first horse, so when she packed up and moved, Kodo tagged along.
Kodo. We were able to travel across the country with me, my dogs, my cats, my husband, my baby. We were able to get from Arizona to Florida in 4 nights.
But that, it turns out, was the easy part.
We had stuff stolen, damaged, just missing.
Tracy says Beltman Group, the Phoenix-based moving business she hired to pack and transport her family's most prized possessions, didn't show up on the delivery date as promised. 17 days later, the truck finally pulled up in front of Tracy's Port St. Lucie home.
My blood just boils thinking about it.
She claims comforters, collectibles, and baby beds were broken and missing.
And I picked it up, and it seemed very, very light, so right away we opened it up, and there was no console in there.
Their PlayStation 3, as well as this game, gone. And then there was this.
The picture itself probably isn't worth anything to anybody else, but to me, it's priceless.
Tracy found an empty easel. It used to hold a tiny photo of her as a little girl, a gift from her grandmother.
She passed away a few years ago, and it was something that meant a lot to me that I got to bring home.
Right away, she started writing, calling, thinking the maximum value protection plan she purchased would surely cover her losses.
They denied my claims, saying that we couldn't prove that we had the articles to begin with that were missing because we couldn't tell them which box they were packed in. And again, we paid them to pack our stuff, so of course I didn't know which box they were in.
So the Contact 5 investigators checked into her claims.
You can't help her.
No, because we only cover moves that happen within Palm Beach County.
Consumer Affairs doesn't have the jurisdiction. Neither does Florida's Attorney General. And the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration doesn't always have the authority to get involved in smaller cases like this one. So Tracy says she kept calling the company, kept badgering for reimbursement, and kept being told no.
It was a full-time job battling them to get any closure in it, and even then the closure wasn't right.
Even though Tracy estimates the value of her missing and broken items at more than $5,000, she finally settled for $1,300, plus some compensation for money she spent on housing and food while waiting for her goods.
I've cried so much now, it's to the point that I'm just angry.
Beltman Group didn't return our phone calls, but the company is an agent of North American Van Lines, which, after several months, made Tracy that settlement deal. A company official said North American Van Lines provided Mrs. Hine with compensation for damages and delay due to her move, as well as a means to resolve her claim through a third-party arbitration process. He went on to say North American Van Lines apologizes for her inconvenience during this extraordinary busy summer moving season.
While complaints like Tracy's may not always get federal scrutiny, the Contact 5 investigators have found a congressional committee in Washington, D.C. is now investigating thousands of moving complaints, including serious claims like fraud and theft. And at the same time, we've learned a federal lawsuit has been filed in Denver, Colorado, making very similar claims.
In that indictment, the U.S. government is suing 5 moving companies and brokers for things like wire fraud, theft, and extortion. One of the brokers, not named as a defendant, but mentioned several times as a party in the alleged illegal activity, a South Florida-based business, Worldwide Van Lines. The investigators went searching for the company. No moving trucks outside, just a few folks working the phones inside this office in a Delray Beach strip mall. Worldwide Van Line's general manager told us he doesn't know anything about the federal investigation. But Sherry Dolphin says her experience with Worldwide lines up with what the feds are claiming.
Gave him $300.95 for a deposit.
She claims she waited 15 days for her mover to show up and pack up her belongings in Vermont so she could move to Jupiter.
Truck driver calls again and says that we're on our way to pick up your belongings in Killington, Vermont, and we were just stopped at a way station and told that we needed a passport to get into Vermont.
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 The state of Vermont.
The state of Vermont. You're driving from New Jersey to Vermont and you need a passport? I don't think so.
The driver just never showed, and Sherry claims she had to fight to get her deposit returned. About Sherry Dolphin, Worldwide's general manager Daryl Lawson told us by phone, "We don't hold anybody's money. We tried to get trucks to her, but some routes were messed up. Unfortunately, in business, you have some unsatisfied customers. That's just business, period." Tell that to Sherry Dolphin and Tracy Hine.
It's very shocking.
And they're not just goods to me, they're, it's my life, my family's life.
Beltman Group was the Phoenix-based moving business that was handling Tracy Hine's move there. You'll remember that we left a message for Beltman Group several times in our investigation. Just today at 5 o'clock, we got this fax from the company. Company officials explaining that they had reached capacity and that they tried to help Mrs. Hine with the problems that she experienced during her move. Among other things, they said that their company has an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. Naturally, we'll be posting their entire statement on our website right now, WPTV.com. Meanwhile, if you're planning a move, remember, this is an industry, as I mentioned, largely unregulated. Red flag, if you're asked to pay a deposit, just don't do it. If you're given an estimate over the phone without them coming to your house and checking out the size of your haul, don't believe an over-the-phone estimate. And make sure, if you do get an estimate, there is no third-party outsourcing. So if you hire Shannon Cake Moving to come to your house, Shannon Cake Moving better show up in your driveway or else all bets are off.
So I'm sure these folks did their homework as much as they could. So how can you find out the real skinny on these companies before you hire them?
It's a problem, and you have to really do your homework. It's almost like go to Consumer Affairs and check them against what the BBB says, and then check Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. But again, these agencies don't have the ability really to dig in and investigate the claims. So it's, buyer beware, consumer beware.
Read the fine print.
Absolutely.
Ask as many questions. Don't be shy about asking as many questions as you feel comfortable
Indeed.
you need to ask. Shannon, thank you very much.
You got it.
Shannon.
Now,